Hello, my name is Janet Glover Kerkvliet. Thank you for clicking on this page for this talk. If you're here, this is hashtag MyPandemicJobSearch, a community-based incubator for older workers unemployed due to the COVID-19 crisis. So again, thank you for coming to my presentation about an issue that is near and dear to my heart. I'm a LCPC who has been in private practice for about 10 years. I'm also a career counselor who has worked with several workforce development programs in Baltimore, including Genesis Jobs, Goodwill of the Chesapeake, the Baltimore City Department of Social Services, the Circuit Court for Baltimore County, and I've collaborated with many other programs while in these positions. I earned the Global Career Development Facilitator credential with Dr. Michael Lazarchik and the Holistic Narrative Career Professional credential with Dr. Mark Franklin. I'm also the director of the Baltimore Job Hunter Support Group, a volunteer-run grassroots organization that has met continuously since November of 2011. I joined the group in 2012, even though I had a job. I've always been interested in careers, even as a kid. I used to read the Help Wanted ads, just fascinated by the different ways that people could make a living. I was the unofficial peer academic and career counselor and resume writer for my friends from high school on. It probably helps that my father worked for the New York State Department of Labor, helping Vietnam vets and pre-release inmates from Sing Sing to get jobs. After leading the Baltimore Job Hunter Support Group for about a year or so, I began to notice that the group had shifted to being composed of mostly 45 plus workers, age 45 plus workers, who had been unemployed for several years. I deeply empathized with their pain. Eventually, I figured out why I was so touched so deeply by this group of job seekers who were struggling. When I was 13, my father lost his job in the 1973 recession. The results of that job loss were devastating to my family. Our house went into foreclosure and we had to live in a hotel for a while. Eventually, my father recovered both career-wise and financially, but he never quite recovered from the trauma of that loss. So today I want to give you an introduction and interview to the work of the Baltimore Job Hunter Support Group and our efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic. First, I want to review some of the lessons that we learned from the Great Recession and how they apply to the COVID recession, some of the things that we know about unemployment and long-term unemployment, the history and use of outplacement services, and why our program, TeamWorks, our intensive incubator, is different. We want to talk about the rationale, the outline for the sessions, the curriculum units, the structure of the program, and preliminary data from cohort 1, which took place in this past summer. So the Baltimore Job Hunter Support Group, or BJHSG's mission, is to increase hope, happiness, opportunities, positivity, and encouragement for all job seekers, with emphasis on the long-term unemployed, by providing social, emotional, and psychological support, along with information, referral, and customized strategies to help the unemployed or underemployed maintain resilience, energy, and self-confidence as they strive to recharge, redesign, and rebuild successful careers. Our vision statement is under construction. We're considering good jobs for every generation, or simply recharge, redesign, and rebuild. So our group has been running continuously since 2011, and these are just some iterations of our flyers and logo, but our latest logo is the one on the lower right-hand side of the screen. We follow a model of integrative and collaborative support with some guiding principles. So all our services are aimed at providing hope. We provide personal support to help people maintain resilience, energy, confidence, along with customized strategies in the service of successful job or career acquisition. All of our services are provided free of charge. We follow the ACA and NCDA codes of ethics. Religious and spiritual support is available and offered, because our program originated as a ministry of First Christian Church in Roland Park, but it is not required. We avoid or minimize duplication of services provided by other non-governmental organizations and government-funded agencies by referring group members or, where possible, forging partnerships with other agencies and organizations. We believe that networking is critical in that everyone is a possible conduit to an employment opportunity. And we acknowledge and educate job seekers about the psychological, sociological, and ethical aspects of long-term unemployment, which we'll review briefly in this talk. We can do this work because we have a group of dedicated community volunteers who understand this issue and want to help people on their employment journey. So Lee and Molly are our Monday evening group leaders. The Monday group has been meeting for about a year now. It was a year in September. We have some HR and career coach volunteers, including Lynn Eskite-Tant, who is also a social worker, and Sonia Pitts, who is a former and federal employee and also an expert in HR recruiting. We have counseling interns from the Hopkins program. Right now we have Nigella and Aaron. We have a Hopkins practicum student, Angel Liu, who just started with us. And we have a Hopkins counseling graduate, Jenny Miller, who was one of our interns and graduated in May 2020. All of our members, we have a mailing list of about 400 job seekers or former job seekers, receive our weekly BJHSG newsletter every Monday at 12 p.m. And if you're interested in receiving our newsletter, which contains information about our meeting topics for that week, as well as some job leads and other exciting things that we're doing, please email me and I'll let you know. I will get you on our mailing list. My contact information will be at the end of the slides. And here are our statistics. So we have 400 members. We have probably more than 950 person visits per year. Our meeting attendance has increased 4 times, quadrupled since 2014. We've held over 550 meetings. We've provided probably more like 500 individual counseling and coaching sessions. And we estimate that 207 jobs have been obtained by our members, which at a rate of about 2 jobs per month. So I want to review some of the lessons that we learned from the Great Recession of 2008 and how this affects our population, in particular of the age 40 plus or 45 plus worker. Before I do that, I want to review a couple of categories of employment and categories of workers, because this will come up later in the talk. So categories of employment. Full employment is defined not as zero unemployment, but is defined as unemployment that has fallen, unemployment rate has fallen to the lowest possible level that won't cause inflation. So in the United States, this is thought to be a jobless rate of below 5%. Structural unemployment is the form of unemployment caused by a mismatch between workers' skills and the skills needed by employers. This is also known as the skills gap. Cyclical unemployment is kind of the same as seasonal employment. There's business cycles that are busy in one part of the year and not so busy in the other part of the year, so that's cyclical unemployment. And then frictional unemployment is when workers leave jobs to find better ones. Categories of workers include these 5. So long-term unemployed workers are those who are unemployed for 27 weeks or 6 months or more. 6 months is normally the length that an unemployed worker will receive unemployment insurance. About 40% of the long-term unemployed are age 45 or older. Involuntary part-time workers are those who are employed part-time for economic reasons and who would prefer to work full-time, but can't because of cutbacks in hours or they haven't been able to find a full-time position. Marginally attached workers are those who are not in the workforce, wanted and were available for work, had looked for a job sometime within the prior past months, but not in the previous 4 weeks of the Bureau of Labor Statistics surveys. The Bureau of Labor Statistics gets information on unemployment rates from surveys that they do every week of hundreds of thousands of Americans. It is not solely from the unemployment insurance rolls. Discouraged workers are marginally attached workers who are not currently looking for work because they believe that no jobs are available to them. The marginally attached workers also include those who are not working because they are attending school or they're providing care for a family member. So, one of the things we've learned from the Great Recession is that unemployment is underreported. In January of 2020, of this year, the unemployment rate was 3.6%, which was considered to be a good rate of unemployment. So, however, 5.9 people were unemployed, million people were unemployed, 1.2 million were long-term unemployed, 4.2 million people were involuntary part-time workers, and 1.3 million were marginally attached to the workforce. The unemployment rate does not include marginally attached workers or the involuntary part-time workers. By October of 2020, and these statistics just came out last week, persons who are temporarily laid off are at 4.6 million, and that number is lower than it was last month. Persons jobless for 15 to 14 weeks were 2.7 million, and persons jobless for 15 to 26 weeks were 4 million, and those numbers are down from last month. However, persons on permanent layoff has risen from last month to 3.8 million. Persons who quit or were voluntarily separated was 800,000. Persons jobless less than 5 weeks were another 2.6 million, and that number has risen. And persons jobless for 27 weeks or more, the long-term unemployed, is out at 2.4 million, whereas in January it was half of that. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has included a table called the Alternative Measures of Labor Underutilization. So the red arrow that you see is pointing at our current unemployment rate, which is 7.9. That is our national unemployment rate. However, if we include those categories that are left out, you'll see from the black arrow that unemployment, many economists consider the true unemployment rate to be 12.8%. This includes the discouraged workers and all other marginally attached workers. So this number adds on those workers who are part-time purely for economic reasons and would rather be working full-time. So the unemployment rate is possibly higher than is officially reported. A lot of people wonder how the Great Depression compares to the Great Recession and how those both compare to the COVID recession. So unemployment was the most devastating during the Great Depression. As you can see, the peak in unemployment in the fifth column from the left, peak unemployment during the Great Recession was almost 25%. Peak unemployment during the Great Recession was about 10%. And now during the COVID-19 recession, and we don't know when that's going to end, but that has been going on for the past 8 months, the peak unemployment was 14.7%. So that is the second highest unemployment rate we have had in this country since the Great Depression. Incidentally, we have had 47, well now 48 recessions in the United States, starting with the Panic of 1785, which occurred right after the American Revolution. We've also learned that layoffs are in the millions every year. Even pre-pandemic, an average of 20 million Americans were laid off every year. 40% of Americans who were laid off in 2018 were not provided any outplacement services from their former employers. And I'll explain more about that later in the talk. So as you can see from this graph, in August of 2020, we had already gotten past 25 million people being unemployed. But the total for, as of September, of all the numbers have come in, it is more like 36 million people have been laid off. Unemployment by demographics. is also very telling. This is a comparison of last month versus this month. So unemployment is higher for women than men. Unemployment for teens, and that is defined as ages 16 to 25, has always been very high and is also a serious issue. Unemployment has typically is higher for Blacks and Hispanics rather than white and Asians. And this tells you the trajectory of the unemployment rate for this year. In January and February, it was at the 3.6, 3.5 level. In March, it started to go up a little bit, 4.4. There was a huge jump in April to 14.7%. That was a 10.3% change. In May, it went down a little bit to 13.3. And as you can see, it's been going down a little bit, on average about 1.4% until we get to September, which is at 7.9%. The October report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports on the prior month. So the current rate is considered to be 7.9% unemployment. We've also learned that the effects of long-term unemployment on getting another job is exponential. If you are unemployed at 6 months post-job loss, it becomes harder and harder to become re-employed. And this graph shows this trajectory. On the x-axis, you see the unemployment duration in terms of months. And on the y-axis, you see the job finding probability. This was a calculations from the current using data from the current population survey. And as you can see, the probability of finding a job after that 6 months goes down quite precipitously. We've also learned that with each layoff, salary, benefits, and savings will decrease. And Policy Watch noted that 55% of people employed full-time or part-time on February 1st, 2020, report that they have either lost their job, been furloughed, or had their salary or hours reduced. So workers who have become unemployed because of job displacement often experience persistent subsequent earnings losses, earnings volatility, and later periods of job loss. When a household member is unemployed, household finances suffer, savings are often depleted, debt increases, and households may have trouble paying their rent or mortgage. We've also learned since 2008 that all generations are now in the workplace. There are baby boomers competing with Gen Xers and millennials, sometimes for the same job. So when a baby boomer leaves the job marketplace, involuntary or otherwise, the chances of squeezing back into a youth-oriented workplace that typically hires between the ages of 25 and 45 is unfortunately slim. There is an unprecedented bottleneck in the hiring pipeline. And that is a quote by Shira Harrington, who is the founder of BoomerWorks in Virginia. We also know that the number of workers aged 55 and up is increasing. And as you can see from this graph, from the green part of the bar graphs, the percentage distribution of age 55 plus workers is expected to double between 1999 and 2029. So in 1999, 55 plus workers made up 12% of the workforce, and in 2029, it is projected to be 25.2% of the workforce. And this is largely because baby boomers can't leave the workplace and millennials are getting older and will have to work longer. We also know that there's a significant rise in low-paying, low-quality jobs. The reality for most people is inconsistent with the employment figures. Stories of job seekers spending an exceedingly long period of time searching for a suitable job, lackluster salary offers, relatively small wage increases for employees, and the rapid growth of gig economy jobs such as Uber, Lyft, Instacart, DoorDash repudiate the best job market ever narrative. And that is a quote from Forbes.com. And CNN reported that the class of 2020 was entering the worst job market since the Great Depression. The trend towards entrepreneurship in the gig economy has potential for exploitation. It changes the relationship between employer and employee, and it erodes the relationship because there's this overwhelming focus on profit and quantitative data. The contingency workforce leads to objectification and commoditization of human labor. Long-term unemployment hurts the overall economy. The entire society is negatively affected by having prime age workers sidelined by long-term unemployment. It lowers the nation's overall output and competitiveness. And moreover, the long-term unemployed are more likely to turn to help to already stressed social safety nets. And we certainly see that in our group. The dominant way of looking at long-term unemployment in the US is that it is typically about education or skill gaps or structural unemployment. But research clearly demonstrates that once a worker becomes unemployed through a massive layoff or a company closure, their chances of falling into the trap of long-term unemployment does not vary with education. This is a phenomenon that's called hysteresis. And it doesn't matter whether you have a high school diploma or a PhD. And another thing we've learned that's very difficult for people to talk about is that long-term unemployment represents a fracture in the American dream. It's hurtful to all members of society. We've created excluded groups of people, and we lose our sense of faith and the hope that we live in a meritocracy. So this is a deep social issue, some would say moral issue. This is a quote by Dr. Ofer Sharon, who is a qualitative sociologist at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. He believes that it is a socially important moral issue that impacts all of us. We know that there's judgment and victim blaming around unemployment from family, friends, and society at large. We know that there's psychological aspects that accompany unemployment and long-term unemployment. We've noticed that group members, and this is backed up by research, experience a sense of self-blame and shame. They personalize the rejection and take on feelings of a lack of self-worth. There are certain vulnerabilities associated with job searching, which makes the experience of rejection over and over and over again very painful and can lead to symptoms of depression, hopelessness, and anxiety. There is some evidence of increased suicidality, particularly amongst long-term unemployed people. There's a devastating effect on families, dislocation. Sometimes family members have to leave their family and work in another state. People are selling or losing their homes. They're spending down their savings, and they're depleting their 401ks and other retirement savings. And also, because of the bullets before, people isolate themselves from their profession and their colleagues, which is the worst thing that you can do when you're looking for another job. The pain of long-term unemployment has been described as the secret cancer that no one is addressing, a pandemic, and that was described as a pandemic by an economist at Bard College. Like Chinese water torture, like your wings have been clipped and you're trapped, the daily inner turmoil that forms the trajectory of every day, and like you're dead and nobody told you. So how does this information help us now? And does it hold true for the post-pandemic period? So of course we don't know, but what we do know now is that long-term unemployment is already double what it was in January 2020. We still have 36 million people unemployed. Jobs are slowly coming back to the economy, but it is a slow process. We do know that unemployment insurance claims are increasing and that many unemployment insurance offices are backed up. And we do know that US unemployment right now is 7.9%, almost 8%. In Maryland, it is 7.7%. And in Baltimore City, it is 11.2%. So what can we as mental health professionals do? We need multifaceted local, national, and global approaches that address legal, social, and economic barriers that long-term unemployed workers face when trying to re-enter the job market. We must prevent long-term unemployment for as many people as possible. We need to help clients think outside of the box about jobs and getting back into the job market. We have to change the way that we look at jobs and careers and how they fit into one's entire life, both for ourselves and our clients. And we need to collaborate with career counselors and coaches who are seeing our clients along with us. So I want to talk a little bit about outplacement services. So what are outplacement services? So outplacement is a benefit given by a company to exiting employees to assist them with finding new work. Generally, a company enlists the help of an outplacement provider to deliver outplacement services to affected employees. So what does outplacement entail? So these are some of the services that you might receive at an outplacement center or company. So could be individual group career coaching, cover letter and resume building, resume review and editing, job interview practice and coaching, career interest and skill assessment test, guides on career-related topics such as networking and personal branding, assistance for navigating career fairs, access to information on and research about target companies, social media profile optimization, and but not usually any mental health, emotional, or social emotional assistance. It is not usually provided in these services. So why do employers offer outplacement services to employees? So it has been generally accepted really since the 60s that outplacement has these benefits for employers. So it can improve retention and productivity of the employees that remain if there's a downsizing situation going on. They typically, and not surprisingly, downsizing and terminations typically have a negative effect on the morale and productivity of the remaining staff. But if employers handle this properly, the process can actually enhance the dedication and motivation of the remaining employees. It's one way of showing the employees that they are valued and what happens to them matters, and that their employers have a conscience, which of course can have a positive impact on morale, commitment, retention, and productivity. Offering outplacement services reduces the risk of legal action. So defending a unlawful termination is expensive, it's time consuming, it shrinks morale, and it can injure the reputation of the company. So outplacement services can help the business take appropriate action when they are letting some employees go. And this can be offered as a package, part of the severance package. Outplacement services can help protect the business's brand, particularly if they are remaining in business and not closing. It helps to reinforce the positive view of the company. It can demonstrate a company's commitment to employees, showcases the firm's ability to promote solutions and make difficult decisions. Outplacement, again, could be a part of the negotiation of a negotiable severance package, and it helps to support corporate values. Most companies include in their core values that their staff is invaluable. And there's substantial data that supports the connection between value-driven organizations and long-term productivity. So providing outplacement packages to the employees who are leaving or have to leave demonstrate that the company's core values just aren't words. So there is some evidence that outplacement services are lacking in one particular area. And this article by Butterfield and Borgen from 2005 kind of illustrates the point. So there's a quote from participant 3, and it says, "But one thing I'd like to add is that I think that at that point in anyone's life, isolation is very bad. I think it really helps to be with a group that have been in the same situations. I think that I would have myself felt better meeting. What they could have integrated into the program was having you meet with a half a dozen other individuals and just sharing your experiences." So in the discussion, it says, "The results suggest that many individual recipients of outplacement services received structured task-focused programs that did not meet their emotional and transition needs. This view is supported by the emergence of the 6 wish list categories, which can be grouped under 2 general headings. A, new services that clients would find helpful, counseling, technical skill assessments, and upgrading, and closure or follow-up at the end of the program. And B, changes in the way that the OPC services are delivered that would make them more helpful to clients. So structured, hands-on, tailored, flexible, and more group work. In a more recent study by Dr. Ofer Sharon, in his book, Flawed System, Flawed Self, where he examines workforce assistance to older workers in America and also in Israel, and he compares the two. He says in his work that finding out what works well for career support is actually what we are currently doing. We are doing the research on what is effective. We can see pretty easily that it is helpful compared to a control group. The people getting support are more likely to find a job. While we know that, the harder job is finding out what about the support is supportive. Really, that's the question. Career coaches are not revealing to the job seeker some special technique of job searching or applying that the job seeker has not heard before. The effective approaches for job searching are available in books, and they're not a secret. So what is effective about support? It's really about helping people maintain resilience, energy, confidence, along with some customized strategies. But I think the first 3 are actually the more important. So in developing our program, we also absorbed this definition of career, and this is by Dr. Mark Franklin and Dr. Rich Feller, who are well-known experts in the career counseling field. And they define career as the full expression of who you are and how you want to be in the world. And it keeps on expanding as it naturally goes through cycles of stability and change. I began to study job support programs that specifically provided services for older, long-term unemployed workers. So most of the ones listed here are located in the Mid-Atlantic region, with a few programs from New England thrown in. And I noticed a few trends that were interesting to me. So many of these programs started during a recession, and there again have been various recessions in the US. Many started out as grassroots clubs that grew into nonprofits or businesses. Many of them have formed collaborations with government, nonprofit, and even for-profit workforce development efforts. Most provide services for free, particularly the government-based sponsored programs, but there are some here that do have a fee. There is a trend towards encouraging engagement in some level of entrepreneurship, creating multiple streams of income. And some provide a multiple day or multiple month cohort programs that cost participants between $650 and $1,200. So we came up with our program. We call it the Baltimore Job Hunter Support Group Teamworks Program, which I'm going to tell you about now. Right now it falls under BJHSG, but eventually we are in the process of forming a for-profit company called Calabreica, where the Teamworks will be one of the signature programs of that company, which will include career counseling, clinical counseling, and specialized workshops for employers on a variety of topics. So Teamwork stands for Together Everyone Accesses More Worthwhile Work Opportunities, Resources, and Knowledge Sharing. And we abbreviate it TMWKS. So our goals with the Teamworks program was to improve the employability and career adaptability of unemployed workers through increased access to socio-emotional support and customized job search strategies in order to help residents in the greater Baltimore area return to work and to help Baltimore get back to full employment, defined as an unemployment rate of less than 5%. Because we figured if unemployed workers can overcome the acute stress and grief reactions caused by unexpected job loss, acquire new job search skills, practice new skills in a safe environment, and adjust their career mindset within the first 3 months of unemployment, then these unemployed workers could avoid hysteresis and being unemployed for longer than 6 months. We also noticed that the outplacement services offered by corporate organizations and even some of the nonprofit ones can cost anywhere between $250 and almost $3,600. So we decided that we were going to look for grant funding so that we could try out our model and offer our program for free. So TeamWorks was born, our outplacement program. It is a 12-week program that meets about 12 hours a week, so it is intensive. We were able to obtain funding from COVID-19 rapid response programs from the ABLE Foundation, the Warnock Foundation, the Open Society Institute of Baltimore, and the Mitzvah Fund for Good Deeds. We were ready to take 50 participants in the first 2 cohorts. We launched the first cohort on Monday, June 1st, and we had 22 participants. And we launched the second cohort on August 24th with 20. And we are recruiting for the third cohort, which starts on January 25th next year. So what we do is we ask people when they're interested in the program, we have them fill out the TeamWorks application. This is a low bar application, not very complicated. We're not asking for information that we don't need. We're not asking for dates of birth. Rather, we want the age range. We're not asking for social security numbers. We basically want to know a little bit about their work experience, and we ask them for a resume and also how long they've been out of work. Once they fill out that application, they will then be sent the consent form that you see on the left-hand side. That's an informed consent, and that is based on the Hopkins model of for informed consents for social and behavioral research. And they'll also receive, on the right-hand side, you'll see the resume and cover letter release form. This is an opt-in or opt-out form. We have a database of resumes and cover letters so that if we are approached by an employer, if we have a member's participant, we can go ahead and send the resume and not lose any time asking for permission. People can say, yes, they want that service, no, they don't, or they want to be called every time an employer calls us. We also established some group norms, and this is based on our 9 years of experience with the Baltimore Job Hunters Support Group. So we offer social, emotional, and psychological support. We respect confidentiality. Participants are asked to share, but they always have the right to decide what and how much they want to share. And this includes the right to pass at any point. We ask that participants make every effort to use I statements. We ask participants to stay on topic and to avoid long stories. We ask that they offer suggestions rather than giving advice to their group members, fellow group members. And we keep discussions around social and political issues respectful and not engage in any incivility and negativity. We use these assessments that are mostly ones that are free and available online. We use a couple of depression inventories, anxiety inventories, a self-esteem inventory, a life stress inventory, a mood disorder, and a trauma checklist. And we ask people to compete those assessments before the program, in the middle of the program, at the end, and then 3, 6, and 9 months down the line. They also complete a survey, and there are 3 surveys that are completed. The first one is before the program, the second one is right after the program, and then 3 months after the program. This is a longer survey or questionnaire that they need to complete. And it's a lot to ask, and we don't get as many back as we would like, but we're working on some incentives to have people actually complete the surveys. While in the program, people get to take 2 assessments, the emotional intelligence assessment by Travis Bradbury and the Strength Finders from Gallup. These are provided free of charge to participants, and is covered. The cost of these assessments are covered by the grant that we were able to get. People also have access to One Life Tool assessments, which is mainly the Who You Are Matters game that was developed by Dr. Franklin and Dr. Feller. And they also get access to a login to the self-directed narrative, which is an online tool that helps people get ready for a deeper and organized conversation with themselves about making a well-informed work, education, or life choice. So I have a short video that demonstrates the Who You Are Matters game, which we play with each of the cohorts that come in.
Just having finished a pretty large gameplay, I'm continually impressed with the power of peer-to-peer help and what people can do for each other to encourage.
So there you go. You already have leadership experience, and so it sounds like that's the natural next step in your career.
Who You Are Matters is a fun and social discovery experience, really a game for groups of 300 to 300 people. It's kind of like a 2-day retreat in 2 hours.
Can you share one word or phrase about what it felt like to say that?
Empowering. There was a light bulb moment, aha, a game. We should have a game that allows groups of people to work together in an engaging way as a result of the game experience.
And it's nice to sit down and talk to people about, with no motive, and just life and personal development, and I think it's powerful.
It's really about a new paradigm around managing a career through a lifetime of transitions. And the world has moved towards narrative and storytelling. So this is an opportunity to really be a part of that new approach.
That sounds like a helpful way to really capture what your statement did for you. Great. I spent my career working in assessment and using psychological principles to try to encourage people to think about their possibilities. This is a whole additional model that complements, which is really talking about let them tell their stories, pick out themes, identify what's powerful to them. Because most people, regardless of age, are asking, what's next for me?
I think it's really interesting to learn how much inside we already know. It's really coming from who we are, I think was the most powerful element. And then the second was doing it in community with other people.
It's also a way to really take that new paradigm and turn it into practical, easy-to-use tools that you can use starting tomorrow.
Now, all of you have on your desk what's called an inspired action card. What I'd like you to do is the inspired action card is to choose one action you're willing to take. I think the great news is we're now able to put this out to people and train facilitators and have an online storyteller and have video support to help people learn what this program is about and tutor themselves so they can lead groups.
The number one thing that you want groups to do is share what they care about, and this provides the platform to do that.
What if people could reflect on their stories and experiences in an organized way, and what if that were a fun and social way that really helped people answer their large career and life questions? What if 4 people sitting around a game board could really have a fun experience resulting in a career statement?
Share one word or maybe a short phrase about what it's like to read that.
Gaining clarity.
Great. Helpful. Thank you.
We want game players to be able to take next steps. One is using the online storyteller to both deepen their clarification and accelerate their intentional exploration on their own using technology. And 2 is to take their career statement to a counselor, coach, or advisor who's trained in this narrative assessment methodology and really bring it to life in their own lives, go deeper, learn more, be supported.
Built a sense of community, had a real sense of being honored. Somebody really attended to you for a while. That's what our hope is.
People use games and they tell stories all the time. What if we could use games and storytelling to really help people become extraordinary?
So that's part of the program that we use from using the narrative approach, the holistic narrative approach that I am trained in by Dr. Franklin. And people take the information that they gain from the Who You Are Matters game and they use it in the self-directed narrative assessment and online storyteller. And I have a short video that kind of introduces you to how that works and how that's helpful for people.
What's next for me? What should I do when I finish this chapter of my life and career? I'm stuck. Is this it for the rest of my life? What else can I do now? We all have questions about our future that we aren't sure how to answer. Online Storyteller helps people answer these questions by reflecting on life and work experiences and stories in an organized way. Online Storyteller helps people navigate a lifetime of transitions. I'm Mark Franklin, and together with Rich Feller, we are co-founders of One Life Tools, and developed Online Storyteller and the Who You Are Matters game. Both tools are based on our narrative, holistic, and evidence-based framework.
People are so much more than a test score or self-reported set of interests and values. Online Storyteller is different from traditional test and tell assessments that ask a series of questions to produce a list of job titles. Instead, this web application, Online Storyteller, follows a story-based framework to help users gain language and self-advocate about their possibilities. It allows integrating results from popular assessments like StrengthsFinder, MBTI, UScience, and others. 2 linked processes make up the framework: clarification and then exploration. Clarification helps people reflect on stories and experiences to gain clarity and generate possibilities. This results in the clarification sketch, which is the heart of Online Storyteller. As people reflect on work, learning, volunteer, travel, and other stories, content from these experiences are captured and organized within the clarification sketch. Online Storyteller helps create a living document that reflects a user's whole life and personal context. 6 elements make it holistic. Desires are what you want and what's important to you. Strengths show skills and knowledge you want to use. Personal qualities depict personality and how others describe you. Natural interests showcase emerging passions and evolving identity. Other people include influencers and your life roles. Assets represent additional skills and experiences. Possibilities include work, learning, and leisure ideas for your future that emerge from the storytelling. Possibilities are more actionable because they emerge from you, from your stories. For those of you who have experienced the Who You Are Matters game, you'll recognize these same elements. Game content is easily added to the clarification sketch. The more stories you add and the more feedback from allies that you get equals more items and deepens the quality of your clarification sketch. Prioritizing those items results in your clarification statement. It creates your personal brand or career narrative. It gives you professional vocabulary for resume, LinkedIn, interviews, and provides language about how you want to be understood. Clarification statement is the output of clarification and the input to the second process in our framework, intentional exploration. In intentional exploration, you're encouraged to explore your most important possibilities about learning, work, leisure, even healthy habits, or whatever your next adventure may be. Online Storyteller supports you to explore each important possibility in an organized exploration plan. You identify clues that lead to inspired actions, actions that you actually want to do. Email reminders help you to take that inspired action. Helping professionals use this tool in live sessions with clients, or individuals use it for their own self-directed narrative assessment. Facilitators use this to scale up to thousands of students, adults in group training, or employees in a workplace. Either way, it allows you to integrate results from popular assessments, such as Strong Interest Inventory, MBTI, True Colors, Personality Dimensions, Via Character Survey, StrengthsFinders, UScience, and more. With Online Storyteller, people feel seen, heard, and hopeful as they navigate a lifetime of transitions, develop a warm inner compass, and make well-informed choices. Online Storyteller and our companion game, Who You Are Matters, are 2 tools within an evidence-based framework for life and career clarification. This framework is backed by outcome studies published in peer-reviewed publications. Learn more at onelifetools.com. Within the One Life Tools YouTube page, find more videos of Online Storyteller. Click the link below to sign up for a free trial.
Okay. So all of those methods, including the Who You Are Matters, we have been able to convert to the online format. So while those things are actually more fun in person, particularly the game, we're not able to do that, but it is equally as effective in the virtual format. So these are the curriculum units that we cover in the 12-week program. We've split them up into 3 sections that we label with our potential tagline, recharge, redesign, and rebuild. And the first 4 weeks of the program are helping people to sort of recharge, to sort of step back, to sort of recover from that initial shock and grief of the job loss. We help them engage in their creativity and some self-care. We talk about stress management, and this time we threw in a little bit about coronavirus anxiety. And we encourage people to either build or reconnect with their support network. In the middle part of the program, we talk about redesigning your career and job search. We encourage people to consider entrepreneurial pursuits, to develop multiple streams of income, because even if people get another traditional W-2 job, they may lose it again through no fault of their own. So we want people to be able to earn income even when they are between jobs. We then talk about pitching and networking. These are the getting out there and doing things that particularly baby boomers are not used to doing. Pitching yourself, branding yourself. It feels a little icky to a lot of people, and networking as well, but we show them how networking can be done in a natural way, and pitching can also be done effortlessly without feeling like you're being a salesman. We also review the art of job search documents and interviewing. Interviewing is something that people are pretty familiar with, but we do practice that. And most of these folks are pretty well versed in how to write a cover letter and how to do a resume. They may not be as familiar with job search business cards, but we help them with those items as well. We also talk about, in networking, we also talk about social media, your online presence, particularly concentrating on LinkedIn and other more business-related social media apps. And in the final section, we are rebuilding. So hopefully we're taking all of this information and we are rebuilding life, job, or career, and hopefully coming up with an action plan. We also talk about cultural and generational competency. We talk about financial planning during a job search and as you're moving forward, as you're recovering. And then we have, in the last week, we add in any resources or information that we didn't have a chance to cover in the other 11 weeks. And this is our typical schedule. In this cohort, and this might change a little bit, but this current cohort, we are meeting on Mondays and Wednesdays from 8:30 to 12:30, on Tuesdays from 12 to 3, and that includes our regular Tuesday Job Hunter Support Group meeting. People also have team members also have the option of attending the evening meeting on Mondays at 6:30. And then on Thursdays, for 8 weeks of the 12-week program, they're in a entrepreneurial training program for about 75 minutes each week with Operation Hope, which is a nonprofit that whose mission is to teach people how to start their own businesses. So this program is led by financial well-being coach and business coach Robin Haynes, and she has been doing. I think we're doing our 4th class with her, and it's always very informative and a lot of fun. We also include a vision workshop, or it's usually a vision board workshop, but because we're in a virtual environment, it's a visioning workshop with Krista Verostro, who is a registered drama therapist. And these are just some of the textbooks that we use for both BJHSG and TeamWorks. You'll probably recognize some of these, and we use many others as well. And we put all of the information that people are learning and any handouts, any videos, webinars, all of the information, job leads, job announcements, upcoming events. We're using Google Classrooms to make that information both easy to upload as well as easy to access. So I wanted to give you some very preliminary data about some of the results from our first TeamWorks cohort. So the time unemployed, so the first pie is about how long people have been unemployed, the class members of cohort 1, and the vast majority of them had been newly let go from their jobs. They had been unemployed for less than 6 months. We did have some long-term unemployed people in there, but just about more than half were recently unemployed. In the pie chart on the left talks about the ages, and again, almost half were people who were ages 51 to 60. We did have a number of people who were age 60 to 69, but mostly we are talking about for the most part, the 55 plus. The residents by city or county, the vast majority came from Baltimore City, more than half. The first cohort was mostly African American in racial background, and also mostly women. And this information parallels closely the national demographics for long-term unemployed people. They tend to be mostly women, mostly people of color, mostly people who have more than a high school diploma, and often are in urban environments. And so the results from our first cohort is that 61% of the participants are now employed, and 36% of those employed are in full-time jobs in their chosen fields. So we are recruiting for our January 2021 cohort. And again, the process is to complete an online application. You would then complete the consent forms, the resume and cover release forms, email a copy of a resume. You will receive a unique identifier number for the assessments. You would complete the BJHSG questionnaire or survey 1 and the initial assessments, and then you would be ready to come to class on Monday, January 5th at 8:30 a.m. So that is what I have for about TeamWorks. I'm hoping to come back with you with more data and more information about how our program is going. Also wanted to let you know about some exciting events that we have coming up with the Baltimore Job Hunter Support Group. We are participating in Free Fall, and we have these fun events coming up. We are also observing or having awareness events for National Bullying Prevention Month, which includes the second week of October, which is National Healthy Workplace Week. And we have these events coming up as well. And all of these events, these and others that are being provided by the Baltimore Job Hunter Support Group can be found on Eventbrite at this link. Or you can simply search for Baltimore Job Hunters at that link. So thank you very much for your time and attention. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much.